Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome back to another ranking video that we're all doing together here. If you find yourself just reminiscing about the good old days of when people in movie theaters were respectful of the people around you and weren't on their phones, and the good old days when you actually got kicked out of movie theaters for talking too much or going on your phone and just kind of being an asshole. You know, if you miss those days and now feel on the outside and feel weird that you're like the only one not on your phone, well, welcome. Please join me in my frustrations as we do another ranking video here. But yes, welcome back here. Today we're not going to be doing another movie review. We're actually going to be doing another movie franchise ranking. So we're actually going to be doing it for the Karate Kid franchise, which actually has 6 movies in it right now, if you include the new one, Karate Kid Legends. So we're going to be taking a look at all 6 Karate Kid movies, ranking them from worst to the best in my opinion here. So, but yeah, if you're interested in some of my more in-depth thoughts on all these movies, I'm going to be putting them at my end cards. I do have reviews and more in-depth discussions on all of these movies. So this ranking is just going to focus on the ranking and going over brief details of each movie here. So let's jump right into the ranking. And like I said, this is going to be from my least favorite all the way up to my favorite movie in the Karate Kid franchise. So we're going to be starting with our last place, number 6, coming in, which is going to be the next Karate Kid. Now, this is a movie that was painful to watch a little bit, if I'm being honest here. I'm not even sure if it went to theaters, but after the trilogy of Karate Kid movies, they decided to do a spin-off one where Mr. Miyagi trains this new kid that we're supposed to be invested in. But my biggest issue with this movie is Julie is such an unlikable character. It's almost a little bit painful to watch. She just treats everyone around her so poorly, and even the new characters she interacts with, like, forget the name, but this one kid that introduces himself, offers to take her to class on her first day. She just tells him to go to hell and basically go fuck himself. So it's so frustrating watching this movie, because our main character should be somewhat likable or have some redeeming qualities here, but Julie is just kind of miserable to spend a whole movie with. There's a goofy ass side plot where this high school has a militia full of karate students, which all look like they're in their middle to late 30s, which it just gets kind of creepy. The teacher in there is very over the top and crazy, just having these kids just basically be this violent dictatorship over high schoolers, pretty much. And this movie's full of crazy over-the-top exposition where there's not really a story or a plot. It's basically just a movie of characters walking around different rooms and literally and physically vomiting exposition at you. And it's so hard to get behind Julie as our main character, and it's sad seeing Mr. Miyagi that this was the actor's last Karate Kid movie here, and you're just like, God, dude, you're wasting your time here trying to train Julie. Just go back to Daniel. He's probably a little bit lonely, and he wants his Mr. Miyagi here, okay? Because there's zero relationship that you get behind between Miyagi and Julie. Just makes me miss Daniel and Mr. Miyagi together throughout a whole movie. I'd rather have a fourth one with them doing this exact same shit. There's no plot in this movie. It's just Julie learning to not be an asshole, learning her kata form of karate through Mr. Miyagi to defend her bird that I think she stole and is just storing on the top of the roof of her high school, which is a little inhumane in my opinion, but it's just, it tries to hit all the same notes, but just so poorly executed. I can never imagine an instance where I would ever sit down to watch this movie again. So easily easily in last place. Coming in at number 6, we got the next Karate Kid. Coming in at my number 5 spot, we got the Karate Kid Part 2. In the Karate Kid Part 2, I really did enjoy seeing Daniel and Mr. Miyagi back together again. Their chemistry and that father and son type relationship, just even in the lesser quality sequels, you always like seeing them together, and I just love that relationship so much. And with this one, I do remember enjoying how it picks up right after the first one, right in the parking lot when Mr. Miyagi and Daniel confront Johnny and their Cobra Kai instructor as he's like bullying his students in the parking lot, and you get to see Mr. Miyagi defend those students as well, even though they just try to hurt Daniel. Again, adds a lot to Mr. Miyagi's character, and I like how it just seamlessly picks up right after the first one. It almost felt like that was probably a deleted scene from the first one, is just how well it picks up. I also in here really enjoy Mr. Miyagi's character. That's going to be a continuation through all the movies he's in. He's easily the best part in the majority of these movies, and they give him a great iconic line that I love from this franchise when he says, "A person living with no forgiveness in heart is living a worse punishment than death." And I love that scene, and I love that line given from Mr. Miyagi, because it really just highlights and culminates all the themes that are going on throughout those first 3 Karate Kid movies, and basically all of them as well. And it doesn't all work for me here, but I do appreciate at least how vastly different this movie feels, and looking back on it, how vastly different it is compared to the rest of our Karate Kid movies. You know, we're in a whole different setting. It is more so Mr. Miyagi's story here with Daniel as the side character. So, like I said, it doesn't all work, but I really appreciate how different it really does seem. But the reason it's coming in at my number 5 spot is, like I just said, I'm not too sure how I feel about Daniel kind of becoming the side character in his own movie. Like, these are the Karate Kid movies, not the karate instructor, and Miyagi definitely becomes more of our main character here. Some of the stuff that they do with Miyagi, I think he works better as that side character and as more of that mentor role. And in this movie, we get a lot of stuff around Mr. Miyagi, and I believe it was an old friend, Sato. It's interesting, that dynamic, that culture, history, and everything that they implement here, and it gives more lore to Mr. Miyagi, but they don't really do anything to get you fully invested, because we just kind of keep getting told of what happened and why the characters are acting the way that they are. We're not really shown anything or given time to develop this conflict. We're just kind of told this is why they hate each other, and every 20 minutes Sato comes in and is like, "Mr. Miyagi, I need to fight you because of our woman issues," like every 20-25 minutes, and Mr. Miyagi's like, "No, I don't fight. My karate is special, Sato, you know this." And Sato, of course, practices that more aggressive form of karate, gets pissed and leaves, and then sends his nephew to bully Daniel, and then comes back to Mr. Miyagi. It's just very repetitive throughout. Like I said, in the positives here too, or in my review, that I appreciated the ending notes that it left off on. I don't really enjoy the ending battle here where it's between Sato's nephew and Daniel. Like, it almost felt like Daniel and Sato's nephew were battling it out to solve Miyagi's and Sato's problems, where I'd much rather have seen Sato and Miyagi have to fight and then get maybe interrupted by the storm and then have to work together. So you're just not invested in that final fight between Daniel and Sato's nephew, because they don't really have any personal conflict besides his nephew just being a dick to Daniel the entire time. And then it's just kind of anticlimactic with how it wraps up, with Daniel honking the dude's nose, refusing to give him a final blow, which is just so cheesy and over the top. And yeah, and this movie's pacing is pretty poor. It's just pretty boring. There's a lot of meandering going on, and again, kind of similar with with the next Karate Kid, it would take, I couldn't even imagine a scenario where I'd want to sit down and watch this again, because even the good parts in this movie, they do it much better in that original film here. So coming in at my number 5 spot is going to be the Karate Kid Part 2. Coming in at my number 4 spot, we got the Karate Kid 2010 version, or now the Karate Kid canonical remake version, because it came out as a remake, but now it's kind of canon, so it's a reboot or whatever a reboot, sequel, rebootquel or something like that. You know, this one, like I said in my review, I grew up with the original one, and then this one came out when I was like 11, 12, so that perfect age for a movie like this. So I did grow up with the original and this one, and it was so nostalgic for me looking back on it, but when I did watch it again, it's like one of those nostalgic memories where it just kind of sours your experience because it's not as good as you remember. It's just kind of like looking back on your childhood and realizing, like, I don't know, like, oh God, maybe my uncle wasn't just friendly, maybe he was a little too friendly, you know, hypothetically, of course, just something like that. You know, first with this 2010 remake, I do enjoy the complete out of water situation our main character of Dre is in, because instead of just moving states, he's moving countries. He's, you know, bullied by the locals. He can't even really speak the language. So that complete fish out of water situation of Dre in this movie, you definitely feel for him a little bit here, just because he's so out of his element and really isolated and alone. So it makes sense when he partners with Mr. Han here, and you get some good scenes with them. In this movie, I think the kung fu action is much better. You know, some of the best in the franchise besides when this new one came out. I think Jackie Chan elevates this movie a lot, and his action set pieces are fantastic as well. So definitely a needed kind of remake with that action aspect. So I think it definitely helps it still holds up pretty well here. But the reason that it is coming in at my number 4 spot is because this is just a step-by-step copy and paste of the original, with elements of them trying to do something different, like when they decide to have it make the characters do kung fu instead of karate. It just is like, well, why did you even change that? It doesn't really change anything. Like, it's just like they wanted to do something different, but then still wanted the name recognition of the franchise, so it comes off kind of weird. And, you know, like I said, they copy and paste the exact same plot from the first one. You know, you got a kid moving away from home, he's interested in the girl, starts getting bullied by the characters, or typically the ex-boyfriend of the girl that he's now interested in, and they practice a more violent form of karate. Then he gets his maintenance man to defend him at one point, and then they start training together for a tournament to beat the bullies. Like, plot for plot, beat for beat, a retread of what we've seen done better before, unfortunately. And the relationship stuff to me with Han and Dre just never feels as good as it did in the original. You know, the training stuff is very just montage through, and Dre becomes an expert in kung fu way too quickly, especially given his age here. And I think that's another big issue, is just all the kids in the movie are just way too young. I think I said in my review, I mean, these look like elementary school kids. Like, go tell a teacher, go tell adults. All your parents still probably pack your lunchbox. Like, what are you doing trying to kill each other right now? So it's hard to take serious. This movie's coming in at almost 2.5 hours long, which is ridiculous, because on its own, it's not a horrible movie. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just a retread and a remake of something we've seen before, but that 2.5 hour runtime just absolutely, like, I'd never want to sit down and watch this, because if I was in the mood for this, I just watched the first one that's 30 minutes shorter. So I hate that it's the same story, but stretched out so much longer. And I hate the ending too, when they do just a blatant ripoff of the crane kick technique of Daniel from the original. Same exact plot points. I mean, he gets like, I think the same leg injured in the tournament. I mean, they stick with it true and true. Like throughout the whole movie here, you're pretty much just watching the new one with HD cameras is what it feels like. So coming in at my number 4 is now the canonical remake 2010, The Karate Kid. But coming in at number 3, we got the new one, Karate Kid Legends. I was definitely really anticipating this movie. Unfortunately, left pretty disappointed. Again, similar to the 2010 one, where it's not a bad movie at all. It's completely watchable, especially if you didn't grow up with the original or maybe didn't see them. I could see you really liking the 2010 one or this one as well. Because, for example, again, I think this one now has the best action and action set pieces in the entire franchise. I think the karate and kung fu action is really good here. There's a couple standout scenes, especially that one in the alleyway when he's like flipping off the walls and shit. Like there's some really well done things here. And personally, ZakIsCinema here, I did enjoy the little offshoot side plot of Lee training that pizza shop owner to box and hopefully win some money to save his pizza shop. I don't know. I saw some people complaining about it after I put out my review, looking at other people's reviews. I kind of like that change of pace because everything else in this movie feels so similar to what we've seen before that this small little 20-minute side plot I really did enjoy. I enjoyed the relationship between Lee, his new friend, the pizza shop guy, and the girl, which is the daughter of the pizza shop guy. Like, I enjoyed that dynamic. I enjoyed that Lee is a bit more of an expert in his martial arts here, so he's actually gets to train someone before he needs training. Like, I like that they tried to do something a little bit different, and I think it could give some good development to our main character of Lee, who is very likable. They give you some sympathy here, of course, with him moving and his brother passing away, so there's some history there. They find a way to merge the 2010 movie into this franchise by giving Lee a reason that he is more trained in kung fu but now needs to learn karate, so then it makes sense why he needs to learn karate and kung fu. So I like that merging of it. I think it does make sense and adds to the story here. But the reason it's coming in at my number 3 spot is because as soon as I started watching it, first 5 or 10 minutes, it just had me rolling my eyes and so disappointed knowing we were going to get such a similar plot to what we've seen before in almost all of these movies. You know, we got Lee being forced to move to New York. He finds a girl that he's interested, then the girl's ex-boyfriend's bullying him, and then he needs to train for a tournament again. So it's just so frustrating that the 6th movie in this franchise is just doing the same exact thing. And you could tell there was like sprinkles of like little things that they could have done different or expanded on, but then they revert back to what's comfortable and what's safe for this franchise. And even with the tournament stuff, sure, it's cool that they're on top of New York City buildings and it gives a great set piece and scenery, but the ending tournament stuff is just so glossed over and so devoid of any tension or suspense. It basically just montages through everything until the final battle, and then that wraps up in like 5-6 minutes. And again here, like my issues with part 2 is the bully character is absolutely nothing. He has no ongoing presence or real personal connection to Lee, just your standard dick that feels ripped out of an 80s movie. So that's frustrating as well because they really could have done something different with that. The ending is very, very predictable. You can predict exactly how and what move Lee is going to use to defeat the bully within about 10 minutes of this movie. When they show you a flashback, I called it right away, and from that point I knew Lee was going to be okay and everyone that I cared about was going to be safe. So again, not a bad movie. I'd much rather watch this one over the 2010 remake because this one, I like the characters more, and there are a couple things that they try to do different, and it's almost an hour shorter than that 2010 remake one. And, you know, seeing Daniel with Ralph Macchio back and Jackie Chan here, like, I like them, even though the movie doesn't utilize them very well. So there's some good things in here, just left pretty disappointed, unfortunately, given its story and plot and everything that they tried to do. But yeah, coming in at my number 3 is going to be that new one, Karate Kid Legends. Coming in at my number 2 spot, we got the Karate Kid Part 3. I felt like maybe a little harsh on this one in my review. Like, there are a lot of issues with this movie, but ever since I watched it and watched the rest of the franchise, I kind of have more of a soft spot for this Part 3, and I don't think it's as bad as I initially thought, and it's just got that cheesiness and charm, and it's very easy to watch here. So, you know, I like how we pick up with the old Cobra Kai instructor after the ending of the first one, when he's really lost everything, and it feels like a more straightforward sequel to what should have been. Like, it should have been Part 3 is Part 2, and then Part 2 is Part 3. Like, it felt like those should have been reversed here, because it leads better from the first one to this third one here. And again, just I appreciate having Daniel and Mr. Miyagi here. They have such a sweet relationship, and I love the detail of how Mr. Miyagi just always shows up for Daniel, because Daniel's always getting beat up and harassed in these movies. Like, this movie might be a little bit repetitive of what we saw in the first and second one, but it has a sweet and satisfying underdog story, and I love Ralph Macchio and I love Mr. Miyagi, so having them together in what feels more similar to the first one is just enjoyable, because this is kind of the last one you got with both of those characters here. And I do like more of the conflict that they try to throw in here with Daniel and Miyagi, showing their different personalities and how they view the world, and why that would create some conflict between them. And there's more conflict between them that gotta work together here. Like I said, even though it's kind of goofy and very, very cheesy and over the top, I do like how the plot changes a bit in here, where when Daniel and Mr. Miyagi start fighting with each other, that new Mike guy, the trainer taking over the Cobra Kai dojos, is kind of manipulating Daniel and tapping into that angry side he knows Daniel has, and almost trying to trick him into training more aggressively, and driving a wedge between Daniel and Mr. Miyagi, and he even tries to drive a wedge between Daniel and his new girlfriend as well. So I like that aspect, because it's something a little bit different here that we haven't really necessarily seen Daniel go through with another mentor type role. And this movie's just kind of more entertaining than like Part 2 or the next Karate Kid or the remake or Legends as well. I find it more entertaining. It's less boring. The pacing moves pretty fine as well. And there's just some great standout scenes, like with Miyagi beating up Johnny and Mike in the Cobra Kai dojo as well. Like, it's cheesy, but it has like this just fun charm to it, this fun early 90s, or it was like 89 or something. Just that charm there is all throughout the movie here. But it's not my number 1 here, because like I said, I like what they set up with Johnny and the instructor, but I just hate the goofy ass plot of him kind of turning into this 80s villain. Like, he's this 80s like banker kind of guy trying to organize a whole revenge plot against a child. A kid that just graduated high school. Like, it's kind of weird. They got him like smoking cigars in the limo and sitting in the bathtub dealing money and shit. And it's just like, at points crosses that where it's just like a little too cheesy for me. These last 2 movies, you know, in Part 3 here and Part 2, they just kind of feel like random side plots with Miyagi and Daniel fucking around a little bit. Like, I think in this one there's a side plot of them buying a plant store together, so I'm like, okay, like, are we gonna get to some karate here? And it's just like, spends a lot of time meandering, unfortunately, in that first half. And at this point in the third one, it does get kind of silly with Daniel still only training in that kata form of karate. Like, it just kind of looks like he's doing yoga at some points and just not practicing fighting. So then when you get to that third act battle and Daniel is significantly outmatched from his opponent here, it just stretches the believability that Daniel would be able to pull this off. And that third act tournament stuff, almost kind of similar to Legends, where since Daniel is the returning champ, he doesn't have to do all the other battles, so kind of montages through it and then you're already there, so there's no real build up, and Daniel gets his ass like handed to him and then gets lucky with like distracting the opponent using that yoga form of karate. So it doesn't feel like Daniel like earns this win. It more so feels like he just kind of got a little bit lucky, which isn't very satisfying. And this whole time when I was watching it, I was just kind of confused on why Miyagi wouldn't train Daniel, because it's so similar to the first one where Daniel's getting bullied and harassed and beat up, but Miyagi doesn't want him fighting. But it's like, okay guys, like we're doing like kind of the same thing as the first one, and Miyagi trained Daniel because he didn't want to fight, he wants to defend himself. So we're in the same situation, boys. And then so when he goes off with that instructor who's kind of infecting his mind, it's like, this shouldn't even be a plot point. Daniel, go back and hang out with Mr. Miyagi, okay? Learn that hand power technique so you can start healing people like Jesus. Like, come on, Daniel. An easy to rewatch, a fun, cheesy movie that hits all the same plot points and has some good standout scenes. So I enjoy this one. Other than my first one, if I had to rewatch one, I'd probably go this one. So coming in at number 2, we got The Karate Kid Part 3. Coming in, guys, at number 1, did we expect any other movie? The Karate Kid, the original from 1984. I love this movie. I am so nostalgic for this movie. My dad showed me this a bunch growing up, and I always latched on to the character of Daniel. It's one of those classic stories that works so well, where you get behind this kid that's ripped from his home, put in this fish out of water scenario, really out of his element, and then he finds a friendship and mentor type figure in his life that he needed with Mr. Miyagi. But then at the same time, Mr. Miyagi finds Daniel exactly when Mr. Miyagi needed a son type figure in his life as well. So it's just so beautiful and sweet seeing these characters together, and they have a great dynamic, great relationship that I love. That father and son and son and father relationship just never gets old to me here. Mr. Miyagi's a great character. The introduction to him of how mysterious he is, but then you start knowing who he is when he fixes Daniel's bike and leaves it for him by his front door. It's like the sweetest act I've ever seen in a movie, and then invites him to his maintenance shop and gives him and his mom a bonsai tree. It's like, oh my God, Mr. Miyagi, dude, can you I wish he was like my grandpa or something. I love this guy. They do a great job at just making Daniel a likable underdog character who's, obnoxious and has faults, but like with Ralph Macchio's performance, it's iconic for a reason, and you get behind him, and it shows you how unlikable and awful Johnny and the Cobra Kai dojo is, that it just makes you root for Daniel and makes that ending so satisfying. I think the romance stuff in here is pretty decent as well. I typically have a lot of issues in movies, and specifically I feel like older movies not really handling relationship stuff very well, and it just always kind of feels forced and cliche. But this one is very special connection between the two characters. You feel and get why they'd be interested in each other. I love the Halloween party dance with Daniel in the shower costume. I remember that shit so much when I was younger, and I love seeing that scene that it leads to with Miyagi leaping over the fence and defending Daniel for the first time. So it leads to an awesome scene as well. And I also love all the training stuff. Again, so many iconic things with the wax on, wax off, paint the fence. Like, all that stuff is so awesome and kind of helps strengthen Miyagi's character and Daniel's character and their relationship, and then makes Daniel a better martial artist here when he finally learns is that, no, Daniel, you weren't just doing chores. Well, you kind of were, but you were also learning some core important movements for karate. There's just great scenes like that throughout that build the relationship and show the type of teacher Mr. Miyagi is. And I absolutely love that scene that I didn't pick up on when I was younger, when Daniel comes and visits Mr. Miyagi, and Miyagi's going on this drunken rant about his wife and unborn son, how they lost their son in their pregnancy, and his wife died a couple years later, I think. And it just, again, hits those themes and notes of father and son relationship and these two lost characters who found each other at a time that they needed each other the most. And I love that this movie is also about karate and a sports underdog story, but it's also about relationships, families, and more of a coming of age story as well. That's really well done. And I enjoy all the tournament stuff. It's the only one in this entire franchise where it doesn't feel like it's glossed over and very much a part of the story and climax, like building towards that final battle between Daniel and Johnny. I love that stuff so much. It's so satisfying, especially because this is the first one. You haven't seen anything like this. And then when he does the crane technique, it's just a great way to bring it full circle and wrap everything up. So, I mean, what else can I really say about the original Karate Kid? It's a fantastic movie for a reason. So easily coming in at my number one is the original, the Karate Kid. But yes, guys, oh my God, we have made it. I feel like we've been on a 2-month journey with each other here between this franchise and the Final Destination franchise. I culminated all of them into my 2 most recent ranking videos, so you guys have my thoughts on those and the Karate Kid franchise as a whole here. But yes, let me know down below, do you agree with my ranking? What is your ranking of all 6 of these movies? What do you think about all of them? Tell me a little bit about that down below here. I'd love to see other people's lists here. I imagine lists would probably be a little bit different here besides the number one. I feel like it's got to be the original for all of them. You know, if your number one isn't the original, please tell me why. I'd love to kind of hear that out and see a different perspective, but let me know all that information down below here. But yes, we have made it to the end of the Karate Kid franchise. Thank you so much for watching these videos, watching my ranking here. If you're interested in more of my in-depth thoughts, I do have videos on every single movie in this franchise, so feel free to check those out. Thank you so much. I do appreciate anybody watching my videos, especially if you're sticking away until the end here. So thank you so much, and yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.